Hey there, everybody. As you probably guessed by my absence, some crazy stuff going down in the city right now, but it appears we have enough to at least go live and get talking. Here we are, 2 for 2. No, I am here. I am here. I am here. I apologize for being late, everybody. I could give you the full details, but that would take a minute. We don't really have, so suffice to say, I was attempting to change around the projections for a couple people's requests, and then they didn't load correctly, and was attempting to fix a couple other things people had asked for, and yeah, that also did not occur as I might have wished. So give me 10 seconds, we'll get talking here. Thankfully it's only a 4-game slate, and hopefully we won't do too much damage with my being so late. Alright, let's talk some turkey. Yeah, I apologize. It was one of the most frustrating hours of my life. I've got to find a better way to organize everything we have going on with the preseason. I did not have to poop. I've been having energy drinks all day, and thankfully these things bind me up. When I poop, it will be painful and bloody. But no, I did not have to visit the men's room, nor did I have to use the bidet. Those of you who follow the Periscope late at night know somewhat of what I'm speaking. So let's get in here and talk about some NBA real quick. We'll go through this as quick as we can and then answer everything we can. So the Knicks heading into their second game of 5 in the preseason, playing against the Nets. They also finished playing these Nets. Again, the Nets are having their first game of the preseason 1-1. Going into the first game, I was pretty goddamn vocal that this was going to be an incredibly shitty set of minutes distribution from these Knicks, and that was very good. We managed to largely avoid them, and they were largely terrible outside of a certain Mr. Kevin Knox, who did play 26 minutes unexpectedly. And while this game did go into overtime, Kevin Knox saw his 26 minutes entirely in regulation. He's really the lone player startable in this lineup with our current information, with the exception of some long shot tournament plays we could look at. You could talk me into playing Mitchell Robinson in a tournament. Got 16 minutes last game. That's exactly what I project him for again, but has all sort of put back upside, rebounds, and certainly a big number of block shots. If I was going to go with a player past Mitchell Robinson, the next player I would touch would probably be Mario Hezonja, who also got a decent amount of minutes, who I thought might start today, but the lineup has come out that they are sticking with the same starters as that previous game. So Hezonja will come off the bench again, which may be better for him. You're avoiding time on the court with Cantor. You're avoiding time on the court with Tim Hardaway Jr. Someone just asked me who benefits the most with PG out. So Paul George is going to sit down as well. Okay, so my projections are pretty much useless because I thought Paul George would get some time and do some really decent damage. So we'll get to the Thunder in a second. But the short answer to your question is Dennis Schroeder is the person who is going to benefit the most. Moving him largely into a must-play starting capacity. Look, they're starting 5 players for the Thunder. I don't have that news. Someone tweet me a link if possible to a tweet. But I presume they'll start probably Schroeder, Ferguson, TLC, Pat, and Steven Adams. Other than Schroeder, nobody else wants to take a goddamn shot on that team. They are all pretty woeful offensive players. Ferguson wants to take a shot. He just can't make them. TLC's sitting there around average, so that's pretty bad. Is Butler benched? Yeah, Butler is not with the team, and he's not going to play. But, yeah, Dennis Schroeder is the guy you're going to want to play there. I will talk about that more when we get to the Thunder. Let's go ahead and move across New York and talk about the it is Courtney Lee's 33rd birthday rather. I don't think he's necessarily even going to play. He isn't going to start. He's not a consideration. We will not get a repeat of Jingle's birthday day yesterday, unfortunately, but they did waive Tyrese Walker from the Knicks, so they're down to 19 guys to completely screw up minutes. Again, the Nets First of 4 preseason games for them, they open and close with the Knicks, which is always a bonus if you want to feel good about yourself. Play the Knicks as often as possible. 50% of your preseason games is ideal. Your starters for this game will be, as expected, D'Angelo Russell, Allen Crabbe, Karis LeVert, DeMarre Carroll, and Jared Allen. Kenny Atkinson got the memo when he joined the Atlantic Division. We don't play our starters much in the preseason, so don't expect them to be terribly good. That being said, I still have a fair bit of interest in a couple of these starters. Karis LeVert's going to be the popular name, but for very good reason, as he is. Yes, LeVert and Allen would be the first 2 that I would certainly look at. The matchup is exceptional for Jared Allen. The matchup is frankly exceptional for almost everyone on this team. The Knicks are not going to put up a significant defensive effort here. All 5 of these guys are in play. I have their starters minutes varying here from 20 to 26. With the guys they have there. It helps a little bit that RHJ will sit. Shabazz Napier is going to sit. Zanan Musa might sit, but isn't going to play gigantically appreciable minutes anyway. One of the nice things about Kenny Atkinson, and this is a short list, is that he does tend to not play the camp-only / two-way invitee guys. I missed you too, thanks. So he will play 13 players tonight, give or take 1. And he's got 3 out, and there's like 3 or 4 guys, and if you'll look at my projections, which, by the way, if you're looking on the site for the projections, they are not on the tab, after wasting about a half hour trying to get them to upload and understanding the difference between different Excel formats and just pretty much screwing the pooch royally as far as database management goes. I just dropped them in our premium Slack chat. So if you're looking for them and don't have them, that's where they would be. Joe Harris, minutes ownership. Minutes I have at 20. Ownership I would have at minuscule. 1.5% or something like that. And absolutely not crazy. This is absolutely a game where Joe Harris could get extra minutes for any number of reasons. The absence of both RHJ and Shabazz Napier add a couple extra minutes. Again, this is a guy who is going to want to focus entirely on his first and second unit. And his first unit is Russell, Crabbe, LeVert, Carroll, and Allen. The second unit for the Knicks, at least in scrimmages, has been Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Treveon Graham, Milk Dud, Jared Dudley, and Ed Davis. So those are the 10 players we would have any interest in picking. Of the 5 guys at the top, I don't really have a problem with Jared Allen or Karis LeVert in just about anything. You can certainly catch a GPP game out of D'Angelo Russell, Allen Crabbe, and DeMarre Carroll, and this is an excellent matchup. And of the guys on the second unit, I don't think you get enough minutes out of Treveon Graham. I don't think you get enough minutes out of Jared Dudley, plus he's Jared Dudley. But Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Ed Davis are all guys that are in tournament consideration for me, because I do think that the guys at the high end of the second unit, I think those guys, those 3 specifically, are looking at 18 to 20, 21 if their price was nominal enough. I think we can get on top of that. Lots of notes about last year's preseason, we will skip on those. For the Bolsh, Dunn, Levine, Holiday, Jabari Parker sliding over to the 4, even though they got him especially to play at the 3. And Robin Lopez are playing, second of 5 games for them. All against NBA teams. No Aussie shit here. No Kiwis. No nothing like that. They finish with a pretty tight schedule. The last 5 days of the preseason, they have 3 games in a row, but they don't have another game after tonight for 5 days. So that's yet another reason that I kind of like the Bulls a little bit. Valentine will miss this game again. Markkanen will miss this game again, as well as Omer Ashik, who my research indicates has had a stomachache for approximately 3.5 years. There's all kinds of plays in this game to like. Zach LaVine, I have to be begrudgingly a big fan of in this DFS circumstance. He's, at his middle price, definitely a guy I think we definitely want to take a look at. Same thing with Jabari Parker. We expect these 2 guys to pace the offense. Chris Dunn, certainly a reasonable tournament commodity. I would probably avoid Justin Holiday, and Robin Lopez had minimal minutes last time, and I think it stays that way so they can get more time on the court for Officer Wendell Bud White. Wendell Carter Jr. there. Looking over towards the bench, The difference between last game and this game is last game we managed to get Bobby Portis at like 18-19%. This game, well, it's going to be a lot higher than that. But especially at, I think, FanDuel, he's like 4,900. That's pretty exciting. Dunn or Russell, I would probably play Russell. A little more likely to pull a GPP upside there. Yeah, I would probably play D'Angelo Russell between those two guys. There's still a rookie, Chandler Hutchison, who's going to get, I have him reduced by a couple of minutes, but not an incredible fantasy player anyway. I like some guys on the bench, but I would play certainly Portis and certainly Antonio Blakeney, who we talked about on the first show and came out and rewarded us with an incredibly flat Jamal Crawford-esque line of like 21 real points and 24 fantasy points. But I would probably go to either of those guys before I went to Hutchison. I feel as if I'm missing somebody else I want to mention. Oh, yeah, Bud. Don't forget about our buddy Bud there. Yeah, they want to get him on the court as much as possible and see what they have there. And again, them not playing for 5 days after this, I do think they keep this rotation pretty dense. I still think they're playing approximately a dozen players. So I have a fair bit of interest in this Bulls team in a matchup with the Buckaroos that I think could go extremely well for them. Speaking about Cleveland, about Detroit, this is not last year's Detroit team. I will get into a million questions when we get to it. Casey said starters 20 to 25. No, he didn't. Casey said, we'll try to do this, and Rod Beard, the excellent beat reporter for Detroit, who also does a good job of actually speaking to the DFS community as opposed to shunning them and treating them like lepers, Rod Beard said 20 to 25 as his guess. I have the under on that for most of these guys. There is a chance you get something like 25 minutes out of Ish Smith, because I don't think Reggie plays, although I haven't seen that specifically confirmed. But I don't think they want to go too far into like the third string point guard and the fourth string point guard, although I do think they both play. So I think Ish Smith very possibly plays 24-25 minutes, presuming Reggie does not, which I think is the most likely scenario. I think there's a real chance that Andre Drummond, who has always been a preseason and really also early year monster, if you've followed his career with interest as I have, Andre Drummond has been amazing in the preseason, and even at the beginning of last year, if you don't remember, but we were talking last October, last November, like, look at this, Andre Drummond can pass, and Andre Drummond can, and he works hard over the summer, and, you know, this year he's added the corner three-point shot. We've seen a lot of that. I don't know if he can necessarily hold that up. Center with the most minutes on the night, I will come back to that as the specific question. Certainly not impossible to be Andre Drummond. But Andre Drummond, I think plays, I have him for 22 minutes. I do think he sees 20. There's a chance you get 24 or 25, and he's going to get like a rebound per 90 seconds because he just, like, he averaged, over the last two preseasons, he averaged like 16 and 17 rebounds a game. Again, preseason isn't the only thing, but this is also a pretty strong rebounding matchup here. So he can certainly vacuum some down. That does come with a safe floor, so depending what exposure you get to, certainly that is pretty exciting there. Outside of that, I think you get like 18 or 19 minutes out of Blake Griffin. I will take the under on 20 to 25 pretty notably. Certainly price dependent, but I have to get in there and take a better look at the prices. Again, a lot of the time I had set aside for that got consumed by futzing with databases and dealing with people going nuts in Slack. You know, John Lure is still going to be out. Reggie Jackson is still going to be out. But again, Dwayne Casey himself did actually say we're going to try to play everyone who dresses. That should bother you because I believe they're addressing 17 people if Reggie doesn't, I think is the correct number. So, yeah, I would have a significant amount of concern there. So, Ish, sure, I can see, I'm pretty sure he's going to be close to the minimum. I can see doing that. Drummond, especially with a lot of value out there, much like, you know, the reason to play 100% Harden yesterday, and I was so adamant about it, wasn't just that he's been a preseason beast and the coach was saying all the right things and I thought I'd play 30 minutes and he did. It was that even if he had a shit game, and he had a shit game, he was still probably going to be in every right lineup because the pricing is so wackadoo in the damn preseason. I'm going to move on from the Bulls with that. The Bucks, I don't know if it's been specifically confirmed, but I expect to start Bledsoe, Brogdon, Middleton, and Antetokounmpo, and Brolo. I like Antetokounmpo. Again, our previous experience with Budenholzer is that he can be a bit of a dick in the preseason, but the younger guys tend to do okay. And again, see James Harden, see Andre Drummond as far as guys with productive minutes. Right now I have Antetokounmpo at 23 minutes and 36 fantasy points. That's pretty exciting. Drummond versus Cat and Cash is Cat for me by a reasonable amount there. The matchup for Cat is a little bit better, and the ceiling is, I don't know, in Cash it makes it interesting. I mean, Cat was pretty disappointing last game, but like if Andre hits as many minutes as I think is possible, like he'd only exceed Cat by 1 or 2, and I do think there's a real chance in this world where they say we're going to play everyone. Andre Drummond plays 17 minutes and Karl-Anthony Towns plays 26. So even though I really like, you know, a rebound every 90-second floor, I'll still take Karl-Anthony Towns and Cash, but that's an excellent question. I appreciate it. Kokofny Buckaroo getting to lots of questions about the Thunder. Lots of questions about the Thunder. Lots of questions about the Thunder. So yeah, let's talk about. I expect them to play a decent number of guys for the Bucks there. People have asked me about Christian Wood. I only have him about a dozen minutes right now. I don't think that's necessarily good. You can Bledsoe in a tournament. You can certainly Antetokounmpo deploy and be hopeful. You could certainly Chris Middleton in a tournament. But the long and the short of it is that is basically the extent of my interest in this Bucks team. And we'll come back to it in questions as people ask. Knox and Cash. I don't have a huge problem with it. I need to get in there and look a little closer at the pricing, unfortunately. The last couple days I've done a better job of setting aside a half hour, an hour to actually build some lineups and get some time. And between my day job and stuff with the database, my afternoon got eaten preparing for the games and doing research, or actually building lineups. I didn't get done as much as I had planned it would be. So let's talk about the Thunder, which is obviously important here. They were already without Andre Robertson, the kid, Richard Solomon, Abdul Nader, Alex Abrinas, and Russell Westbrook. Now Paul George is at least not starting, and I presume actually not going to play whatsoever. Alex Abrinas will play limited minutes on Wednesday. Okay, they said he was going to be out, but apparently they have reduced situation. Thank you for hitting me with the news there. Keep in mind that again, when looking at the Paul George will not be at the game. Well, there you go. That makes that pretty simple. You guys are coming up with the news right on time. So for the Bucks again, Dellavedova, Sterling Brown, and DJ Wilson are out, which is exciting. It opens up some more times on the wing. So I'm going to go back there and look for a second, because I can see having a little bit of more interest in Middleton. That would push up his minutes projection a little bit. Brogdon would come into play for me. I'd probably move him from the 18 minutes I have him sitting up to about 21 now. He actually has been spending more time at the 2, being out there next to Bledsoe, and I think you'll see more of that, especially when you take Wilson and Brown and Dellavedova out of there. So now I would try to find some interest, some time for Broggy Pants there. Still don't think I Shabazz Muhammad. You are going to be looking at some extra time for Tony Snell, but that's really just time for Tony Snell to waste everyone's time out there. And past like my 5th or 6th lineup, I would end up with probably a minimum price Dante DiVincenzo lineup, the rook there. So there's some analysis on the Bucks. So yeah, for the Thunder, I would give you the following analysis. One of the guys I really wanted to try in tournaments at the start of the day, and even want a little bit more now, is Nerlens Noel. I don't think they really want to roll out Steven Adams too much time. And Nerlens Noel is an incredibly good fantasy player, especially when he has an opportunity. And with all the effective players on his team gone, you are going to get some more post-ups, and I assume the price is sitting right at the goddamn minimum. So, like, I would, at this point, project Noel for more minutes and pretty similar fantasy points to, say, Steven Adams, and I think the ownership is basically none. I would probably have to run Dennis Schroeder in basically every lineup at this point. He spent most of the last year in Atlanta as a 30% usage guy. I'm going to start loading up some pages so I can take a look at prices. I did look earlier today for about a half hour, but presumed I would have the time in the afternoon to after I was done with video and research to get back into it, and that time did not present itself. NBA 100K preseason special. 100K. Great googly moogly. You're not messing around today, are you, DraftKings? So I'll click on this here shooting guard button. I see Dennis Schroeder at 6,300. Look, they're only going to play 11 or 12 guys today is my best read on the situation. Again, something nice that Donovan does for us is he does not tend to, like, if you look at his previous preseasons, he plays 14 guys or 13 guys. The two-way guys are the guys who are in camp who are not going to make the team. He doesn't throw out there in games. He takes those time. It's actually fairly important for the team there. So yeah, I would end up with what I presume would be a fairly stupid amount of German chocolate there, of Dennis Schroeder in this one. So past that, you know, other people are going to have to do some stuff. I would probably play Jeremy Grant before I played Pat. He's just a more accomplished player. I don't think this lineup is going to function so spectacularly that Pat is going to be able to hit some spot-up threes or something to be able to justify trying him in fantasy. I think more people will be inclined to play Pat than Jeremy Grant. I would play Jeremy Grant. This is analogous of a couple situations we've had over the last few days where I would rather play the bench guys, and I'm certainly going to want to play everyone who is not sitting there playing next to Dennis Schroeder. If I had to play Noel or Mitchell Robinson, who would it be? At this point, I would move it to Nerlens Noel, which is weird, and the ownership should be much, much smaller. Any interest in Teague minutes? Yeah, I still have interest in Teague and Tyus Jones. They completely chopped in the first game the point guard minutes, I want to say 21, 27. I do think that narrows the further we get into the preseason, but I still think they split 48. So I think Teague picks up 2 minutes, and you get something like not. Are we asking about Marquise Teague, or are we asking about Jeffers Teague? Now you guys are really throwing me for a loop here. We're talking about Jeff Teague of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, don't do that to me. Right. So yeah, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot. Also, Marquise Teague is Grizzlies. I don't remember where Marquise Teague ended up. But yeah, I think Jeff is a perfectly fine. He looked very good in the first game in his limited minutes. I do think he starts to take some of those minutes back from Tyus. Again, in the first game, I think it was 21 for Jeff, 27 for Tyus. I think you will see that compact a little bit there, but that's certainly a team we're interested in there. I do want to say, you know, further on the Thunder. So, love Schroeder. I would probably play him in everything. He's gonna have like a 38% usage tonight or something crazy. After that, the guys I would want to play first in tournaments in order are probably Noel, probably then Jeremy Grant. Ray Felton is not out of the realm of possibility. Then probably Hamidou Diallo, then Ferguson. But, you know, I would come up with a Thunder guy or two in most tournament lineups that I was building there. You pretty much, yeah, I think that's, you know, the Pistons aren't the best matchup in the world. Interesting to see how that line has changed, but we're running out of time there. So, yeah, I guess that's a fair take there. Jesus Christ, Rogues Gallery on the Thunder. Humperdoo from the Preacher? No, Hamidou Diallo. Towns and Drummond, or drop one for Noel. So you're building on DK, and if they are all center only, which Karl-Anthony Towns was certainly a power forward for some time. Now, in fairness, if they made him center only, that would be appropriate because they've changed their defensive configuration, and instead of when he used to play a lot to start next to Deng, and Deng actually defended the centers more often, and Towns defended the power forwards, he basically does play center and defend center all the time now. Core to go forward with in GPPs we'll come back to in a minute, but obviously, you know, Schroeder is a guy we're talking about. Site-dependent Portis, I think it was FanDuel where he was way too stupid cheap. I will look at the sites in a second after spending one more minute talking about these last couple games. So yeah, fuck the Pistons. Talked quite a bit about the Thunder there. We'll go back into it. The Timberwolves, yeah, we have obviously a fairly significant amount of interest in the Timberwolves, as we should. Gorgui Dieng as captain took down some GPPs the first time we talked about him. little less interested because he'll be a little more popular. But Derrick Rose has time and doesn't have the world's biggest ceiling, but you know, price dependent. I think he maybe picks up a minute or two, so he'll still be in the low 20s. Teague was at 21. I do think that comes up. You get 22, 23 out of Teague, and I would project him for more than fantasy point a minute. I think Bates Diop probably loses time of the rookies relative to Okogie. Towns is almost essential for me. Had a bad first game. Maybe that keeps the ownership down a little bit. Get some time against Gortat, which has previously been a good thing for him. And Tyus Jones is a pretty compelling value play. Moving on to real quickly talking about the Los Angeles Clippers. Lou Williams will be rested today. Milos Teodosic is definitely out, and Doc Rivers like a dick, honestly, saying we're going to rest someone else. We're not going to tell you who, but I'm going to rest another veteran. I'm going to call out Avery Bradley as the guy he's going to rest. I think the guys he wants to give more time to fit that slot well. Sindarius Thornwell did not play last game. Jawoon Evans played a minute. Jerome Robinson, the rookie, played a minute. The projections on this team were interesting. Bradley shot like shit, and I think he wants to see more of the kids, and so you end up seeing, I think Avery Bradley is the veteran that they sit. That's my guess, and I did the projections based on that because I do think they sit someone. That's where I'm going. I think Brogdon is fine in tournaments. Portis or Dunn in cash, I would take Portis. And I like Chris Dunn as a player. But I would take Portis and cash between those two guys. I will get into the premium chat in a second. You guys are beeping me quite a bit privately and personally, I can feel. Yeah, so for the clips there, as mentioned, just looking over my projections, my guess is Avery Bradley sits. That makes the most sense. Bradley looked like shit in the first game, shot like 2 for 10. And they want to give all these kids time, and most of their kids are wings. So that makes the most sense for me. Next guess would be Danilo Gallinari, who played 30 minutes and looked really good in the first game, but they've said over and over and implied over and over that the kids, can you play Shai Alexander in cash? Yes, if he's cheap, if he's 4 something, I don't mind Shai Alexander in cash. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to play 25 minutes regardless, maybe more. So yeah, I like Gilgeous quite a bit. Gallo would be the second guy. I think they said I have him in because I have Bradley out, but I haven't projected for 19 minutes, and I do think all the starters have their minutes fall off fairly precipitously like that. So Gallinari looked good the first game. Tobias Harris is somebody I'm going to want to play this entire year. Pat Beverly played 25 minutes. I don't want to play any of those guys. Shai, Tyus, and Cash, I'll take the one on the Timberwolves in that case. Close. Shai would be my tournament play there, and I think the ownership is lower. But I would play Tyus and Cash and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in tournaments. Looking at some questions. Towns and Drummond drop on. We've already done that. Minutes projection for the Clippers who play. Again, I dropped the projections and those haven't changed. Obviously, the Thunder projections are now all the hell over the place. My number one Clipper is 26 minutes. Someone give the guy in the premium Slack the stuff. Crabbe and Drummond or Tolliver and Giannis already have LeVert. I'm assuming you're doing the high-stakes, low-entry GPPs you tend to do. I'd probably take Tolliver and Giannis because I do think Giannis's ownership ends up being lower than it should be, and I do think there is a giant upside there. I do think they want to build around him, so maybe you get that Kevin Knox type usage. Are you looking at the Greek as the highest projection on the night? That's a fascinating question. Here, let me go into data and sort by filter and sort largest to smallest. I have him 1 fantasy point less than Karl Anthony Towns. So I have Karl Anthony Towns for a point higher than Giannis. But I have the two of them more than 5 points higher than anyone else on the slate for a projection. Although I would move Dennis Schroeder, who's like sitting in here at like my number 7, up to like my number 4 now. Like there's a real chance there's a chance he has a 40% usage tonight. He could play 26 minutes and take 22 shots, and I would be absolutely in no way surprised by that outcome. Drummond or Cat on DK. I'm probably playing Cat in either format. I certainly don't have a problem if you move to Drummond in tournaments. Knox or Parker for low entry GPP on FanDuel. Have the Greek already. I don't know how that affects Knox or Parker. Well, I guess there's the matchup. I will go with Parker. Knox is going to be super high owned. I'm going to go look at price for a second. Levine, Portis, or Drummond Grant in cash. I'll take Levine and Portis. I like the Bulls quite a bit. You ever hear of Burton from OKC? I have heard of Burton. He's someone who I think other people had a little bit more interest in today than I did. Certainly, but he's Iowa State, I want to say. But he's one of the rookies. I know who it is. I think I projected him for 8 or 10 minutes, but with more guys out and Paul George out, I get nothing's crazy. Blakeney I like again. He's going to take a big role off the bench. Wendell Carter I absolutely like again as someone you can go with. Let me get into some of these prices here so I can have a slightly more nuanced opinion. I'm going to look at DraftKings because that is the more popular, certainly, of the sites for you kiddies these days. Just banging through the 4K guys. Hamidou Diallo, I have to see who else is 4K. I doubt would make the cash lineup, but it's a pretty strong GPP play at 4,000. I do think he gets some run there. Yeah, Burton, I just don't think necessarily gets enough time with this lineup, but maybe, you know, Burton gets in there and gets 15 minutes down low, but it seems unlikely to me. Don't want to play him, don't want to play him, can't play him, don't want to play him. Christian Wood at 4,000 is a little interesting. That's just tournament. At the Clippers are largely a stay-away situation except for a couple of guys. You could Glenn Robinson the third at 4,200 in a tournament. I would probably rather Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot at this point. We're going to like the Thunder a lot for scarcity reasons, looking at this going forward. Yeah, the cheapies are not as compelling as they have been the past days. Pat is a cash punt who we like quite a bit. You know, who's probably going to get you 15 or 18, but just isn't going to get you 30. That just isn't something he'd do in a tournament of any size or fashion. I would run Jeremy out there instead. DiVincenzo you could certainly do with sitting a couple of wings, we just found out. No, Mitchell Robinson only playable in a tournament. Blakeney still pretty attractive in a tournament. 4,600 is going to have some pretty impressive usage off the bench. Would still play him over Hutchison at the exact same price. Mari Hazonia I would probably pivot to over Gorgie Jang in this particular format. Campaign wouldn't be. I would have Campaign in like my 5th or 6th lineup, I think. Anthony Tolliver's up to 4,800. I think those minutes come way down. I don't think he's going to play 30 minutes off the bench every day. I think I ended up with him at either 22 or 24, and he's certainly playable at that price there, you know, as a 3-and-D guy, but I wouldn't go crazy. He's someone who is not that great of a fantasy player. I would much rather play Tyus Jones than Anthony Tolliver. Just trying to burn through this real quick for everyone. Tyus Jones versus Derrick Rose. I would play Tyus Jones in every format. Tyus Jones just does more for me, and when you're saving $100, and now I think he's also lower owned. Tyus Jones looked really good the first game, but shot like shit. I think Tyus Jones was 2 for 10 from the field. We want that to regress. We like seeing 10 shots. If he's 5 for 10 from the field, he would have had, I don't know, 33 fantasy points or something for basically the minimum. Like Tyus Jones quite a bit. You could do Joe Harris at 5,000. You could do Nerlens Noel at 5,000. That's what we were talking about there. That's interesting. Ish at 5,100 is probably just tournaments for me because there's some real chances minutes get screwed. I think he probably gets 24, but I like Wendell. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 5,200. It's pretty safe. It's a little bit cashy, believe it or not, more so than GPP. Jeremy Grant all the way at 5,400 would be just tournaments at that price for me. Same thing with Spencer Dinwiddie at 55. Same thing with Brook Lopez at 55. Same thing with Alan Crabb at 56. Jared Allen at 5,600. You could consider in cash, and I wouldn't think would be crazy. Obviously, as a second center, I'm probably having Towns in many or most of my lineups. Again, I already said that Bradley, I think, is the most likely guy to sit. After that, I would say it's Gallinari. Karis LeVert is going to be freakishly popular at 5,900. And those of you who've been playing DFS for a while remember that he was very popular a couple days last year and did not get home from there. Schroeder is 6,300. I would probably just suck it down in 100% Schroeder. And that's, those of you who follow me, something I don't say very often. It's 2 days in a row, though, between Harden and Schroeder. The upside is just simply massive. And he is a guy who can have a floor. He has shot 3 for 16 in more games than I'm comfortable remembering. but there's just really a shot he takes a shot a minute here to reuse the turn. Knox is all the way up at 6,400. You know, that's not a zero expenditure. I would rather play Teague than Knox. I think Teague is a better cash play. Knox obviously has a really significant upside, though. But he is a rookie. It's a little bit like Miles Bridges yesterday. I was more off Miles Bridges than on and explained at length why, and he is not at the stage in his career where he is going to consistently bang out every day. Gortat playing, yes, but I would presume limited minutes. Levert must play in cash. Probably in this specific format, because we're really good and most of the cash players have been winning, and you can probably differ elsewhere. Most other people would have him. There's a real, like, of the cash plays, there's a real chance he ends up being disappointing, and, like, I would certainly make sure to have Schroeder before I had him, but Russell 6,800 just tournaments, Adams 6,800 strong tournament play, Levine 6,900. You know, like, I might play, I guess you could probably play Schroeder, Levine, and we're talking about, you know, core plays. I've mentioned a few here now. Schroeder, Levine, I think are incredibly strong plays. Blake at 7,500, I don't think exceeds 20 minutes. I would look the other way. Paul George is obviously out. Towns at 8,000 is pretty much a must-in for me. So, like, tapping, you know, through a lineup here of guys I really want to get in my lineup, you'd have, like, Levine, Schroeder, Towns. We'll put in Levert for the moment, who I imagine can play at the 3. Only at the 3 on DraftKings. I'll throw Jabari Parker in 2. You know, and that's leaving us 5,433 with Schroeder, Levine, Levert, Parker, Towns. I'm a big fan of all those guys at their prices we're looking at there. I'll throw in my I don't know if I really want a Hamidou Diallo. We might be able to do better than that. But if I was forced to play a 4,000, it is probably him. How much is my boy Portis these days? Let's put in Tyus first. 5,750 remaining for, so we're sort of building a lineup on the fly. Could do Nerlens Noel if it was a little more tournamenty. I mean, I'm sort of building a very cashy lineup here. So we're sort of building a cash lineup. So Schroeder, Levine, Levert, Parker, Towns, Jones, and a couple guys I won't finish it. Crab is definitely a you know, a guy that would just be in tournaments in that spot for me. But yeah, so moving back, banging out some questions in the premium where people going crazy. Wendell Carter or Shai? Wendell in cash. Shai is a tournament pivot for me. Noel and Drummond or Cat and Shai? Would be Cat and Shai in cash. Noel and Drummond is a fine tournament pivot. Campaign is fine. What Eddie is saying is all the Schroeder. That's a fair way to put it. 6K for Portis, too much in cash. I have 5 days till their next game. Like, I still think they ride their 10 horses here. So, Tyus or Wendell Carter, that's really close for me. Probably Tyus for me because of what I think is ownership. FanDuel prices, I know we only have 2 minutes left. I remember Portis being crazy. We're dead on time. I won't run out there and try to power through it because you can only really make a... It's the reason I went all the way through the DK before I said too much. You really have to look at everything because everything's comparative. So if I run over there, is Ayton Rookie of the Year? I have him second. I think actually Trae Young is most likely. I'm going to go Trae Young, then Doncic, then Ayton, I think is where I'm going to think of it. But Ayton obviously has a real chance. Those 3 guys, it's going to be one of those 3. Knox or Levert? I would probably play... That's really close. Probably Knox for what's going to be lower ownership, which is pretty amusing to me. Trying to get what we got up into lock. Answered that, answered that, answered that. Noel, Tyus, or Wendell. I would probably play Wendell in cash. Wendell, Tyus, in the inverse order in cash versus tournament. So I'd probably played Noel, Tyus, Wendell, and GPPs. Vice versa in cash. 4 Bulls in cash. At the prices they're sitting at, you can certainly do Levine, Portis, Wendell. Yeah, there's certainly. I'm a bigger fan. Can't see Knox being lower owned than Karras. That recency. go to the ownership. Good luck also. We'll go to the ownership. Again, this was a bit of a shit show today. I apologize. Let me see if I even have some access to some ownership. Yeah, I got a... it's frustrating again. I have this and then another entire full-time job, and then you know, get to this and set aside time late at night and early in the morning, and I'm trying to make the process smoother, and that's just simply not how that went down. And so yeah, have to. It's tough, especially leading up to lock. A lot of people are asking a ton of questions, and I try to answer them all, but there's a point in which it's just too many damn people. So yeah, I will have to come up with some way to do it better, because this was not quite acceptable, and always have to find time to get in there and look a little bit at the prices. Levert 90% on FanDuel cash, Knox 86. Yeah, I did think, but you were right on DraftKings. I thought Karras would be higher. Karras is 25 in that large GPP, and Knox is 50, which is interesting. All the chatter on Karras today, I thought might even push him over, but you know, there's a lot of risk in playing Knox, but you know, he may not perform, B, the minutes might be out of control. They were the two highest owned players on this slate. Knox 50%, Karras 25%, that's fine. D'Angelo 22%, that's fine. Enes Kanter 15%. I mean, he played, I can't remember if he got 12 or 14 minutes in the last game, and I like Enes Kanter quite a bit, but that's bold. Jared Allen 10.5%, love that. My favorite of all those plays right now in a tournament. Trey Burke 9.6, also played 14 minutes, I think it was. Mario Hezonja 9%, I'd have been fine with that. Tim Hardaway, same story. Spencer Dinwiddie 7, I'd have been fine with that. Damari 5.5, I'd have been fine with that. Alan Crabb 5.5, I'd have been fine with that. Ed Davis 3, I'd have been fine with that. Mitchell Robinson under 2%. Yeah, I'd have been all over that. Joe Harris, someone said, what about Joe Harris? And I said, well, I think this is the kind of game you get upside and it'll be 1.5% owned. I was wrong. He's 1.36% owned. I missed it horribly. And then several other Knicks are on 1% owned, which, yeah, you know, at 1%, I'm willing to take a chance. At, you know, 10% Trey Burke or 15% Enes Kanter, it seems too unlikely that shit is going to blow up there. So, yeah. So let's, tomorrow I believe is the rare, not crazy day for me. I believe there are only 2 games tomorrow, which is good. We'll use tomorrow as a fade Tobias. I would have faded Tobias, and I like Tobias Harris a lot, but there's other players who I think certainly perform, and I think the most likely outcome is that Tobias Harris plays like 20 minutes here. They did not run the rookies much at all that last game, and the second-year guys. Like Sendarius Thornwell didn't play. I think Julian Evans played a minute. Jerome Robinson played a minute. And they said, all right, we're going to give the kids some time, because you have to do it now. Towards the end of the preseason, Doc often rests his starters entirely in the complete final game of the preseason. The game previous to that, you know, they're going to play pretty full bore, and they only have so many games. So I'm not surprised that I do expect them to really pull off on the starters. Yeah, Montrezl Harrell, if there's a player tonight whose name I didn't say who I really liked, it would have been him. I like Montrezl Harrell quite a bit. He played 20 minutes last time. It will be interesting. I think in my projections I ended up at the exact same number. I stuck with 20 for him. But, you know, it'll be interesting how much they throw at some of their younger bigs, whether or not Boban sees the court again. I think he saw 3 minutes last game. Jonathan Motley, I think, was another guy who played a minute. Does he get 15 minutes? How much does Gortat get starting? How much comes out? So it's going to be really interesting. You know, how much does LA playing a bunch of kids affect Thibodeau at all, not running his starters out there 31 minutes? You'll take 20 from Montrezl? Yeah, I would too. I'm a big fan of red tips, as I like to call him. Looking at some other questions in some other formats. Karras is 68% on FanDuel. Knox today, yeah. Those projections are not worth his time. Yeah, so just as sort of a heuristic conversation we're having. Yeah, the It's tough. So when you have the shows are free, and I'm happy to do the shows are free. I got, hundreds of Twitter followers over the last couple days, and instead of 300 people watching me, there's like 900 people watching me, and I enjoy that, obviously. And so I like having these shows free, but that makes me feel absolutely compelled to do something else for the subscribers who are spending, $1.50 to $2 a day for what I'm doing. So I feel like I owe those people something. And so I could take the easy way out and do a couple optimal lineups or core groups of players. But that's not a lot of work on my end for something we're charging a reasonable amount for. And so that's difficult for me because, as I'm often told, and this is more frequently a good thing than a bad thing, the best thing I have to offer is analysis and conversation and just breaking down. So, today, instead of what I would like to have happened, which is spend an hour or two to make sure the subscribers are taken care of and then be on air for the entire hour instead of 42 minutes or whatever, be able to go through all the games and talk a little more intelligently about the pricing. This is about the sixth day we've done this, and two of them, I was ass backward with the pricing. So that obviously can't continue. So yeah, I don't, I suppose I can put the pricing at the top of my list of things to do. The issue with that is what happens when the projections don't get done. So I'm probably going to have a poll or send something out to all the NBA subscribers at awesemo.com, talk about different things we can offer, because they have to be my first priority. I'm perfectly happy to do the free shows. I think they're great, and I hope they're helpful. But yeah, my first responsibility has to be to the group of people who are paying, and so maybe present them with a list of options and try to manage my time even better. Who do you contact for Awesemo support? I think it's support@awesemo.com. Crab, a good play. Crab is a fine tournament play. It's certainly a matchup that could get a lot of speed behind it. And Crab is a guy. There were a couple days last year in March and April where Crab had just monster 45-point days. Free shows might be too helpful. Yeah, that's the other thing where I really don't know how to respond. So people who are paying for the advice, some of whom have been paying to watch me for a couple years, turn around and go, you are getting watched by more than anyone else, and you are moving the ownership, and it annoys me that instead of talking to 300 people, you're talking to 900 people. So instead of you moving the ownership, I don't know how many people are in the largest tournament today. What's the largest DraftKings tournament today? 18,000 teams. And a lot of people play a lot, but let's assume that the average is 2 teams per person, and there's 1,000 people watching me. That's 10% of the tournament is functionally watching. It might be higher. During the Summer League, a lot of people estimated we accounted for like 20% of the field. But people are like, hey, I'm paying. I'd rather only share with people who are paying rather than it's sticky. And I probably would be a slightly better employee if I didn't talk about it, but I'm a much bigger fan of being honest. So I'm certainly open to any suggestions or solutions that anyone else has. And feel free to send those in. Missed main slate Express on FanDuel, shooting guard Brogdon, Bradley, or Holiday. I think there's a real chance Avery Bradley sits. So that would be Brogdon or Holiday for me. And pretty easily Brogdon for me at this point because he can play the 1 and the 2. The backup point guard is out for the Bucks in Dellavedova, who would have played 12 minutes, and Sterling Brown and DJ Wilson are out for a couple wings. Is it possible to load projections in Cruncher somehow, since it seems that's what most are doing with? That's why I got fucked today. I went to Cruncher and started from that point, but whatever format document I received from them would not upload to the site, so I eventually dropped it in there. But yes, it is my intention to, for every day after this one, make the projections Cruncher compatible, because that is the most... It doesn't hurt anyone who isn't using Cruncher. It's still a list of names, minutes, and fantasy points. And for someone who's using Cruncher, the names would match up exactly. So, yes. KJ McDaniels minutes, probably only like 10 or 12. Now, he has been in or out of the league with 76ers... Thunder, Rockets, I'm missing one. Like he's holding on to the edge there. So even with all the guys missing for that unit, I would still say low double digits, 10, 11, 12 there. So there it is. Apologies to missing a lot of messages. Obviously, I didn't get on air until 6:45, whatever it was. So I have no idea, 80 or 100 private messages. I will go back and answer all the ones I can. So apologize to anyone who is trying to get me and to whom I did not answer. Gonna watch some basketball now. Got up at about 5:30 this morning, so we'll try to stay up until the end and do another review cast later. Parker or Portis? That's a really good question. You know, on FanDuel, I think Portis is significantly cheaper. I think you save the money there. Brogdon over Ish. Yes. I think I would Brogdon over Ish. I think it's a safer play. Yeah, I get really upset when it goes badly, whether it's you know, the Phoenix coach being a dick or something like this. It's tough. I don't. Yeah. Like it's. I just need to scale it better. I talk a lot about the process for the players. Like I need a process as a tout or someone who's bloviating all goddamn day to do this just a little bit better. So just change the order in which I do things, what I do the night before, what I do the day of. But let me check and see if there are any other questions in any of the formats here. Sorry to the people who are in the YouTube channel. Where were the projections today? Someone just asked. Yeah, they got loaded into the premium Slack chat because in an attempt to do what people were asking, I tried to use the exact cruncher download and adjusted that and spent quite some time doing that and then couldn't get it to load to the site. So they went into the premium Slack chat where I hope 90% of the people who were looking for them got them. I need a co-host on Friday. Ship My Money DFS, Adam, offered to co-host with me, and I should take him up on that because that would also be a solution because once the show gets going, I can't stop talking pretty much. Thoughts on Diop? Good play. Bates Diop, I think I would rather play a Kogi between the guys on that team, but I do think Bates Diop makes an interesting sort of Tolliver pivot there because they occupy a lot of the same space. Thoughts on Thon Maker? I think he's going to be center number 3 on that team at this point. There is some rumblings about him spending some time at the 4, but I would put him at 10 or 12 minutes tonight. Schroeder, Levine, Tobias, Parker, Portis, Beverly, Knox, Levert. I have some concern with Beverly. I really don't want... Maybe they'll work out fine, but I think there's a real... I'll say the average veterans, one of the vets will be sat, which could be Pat Beverly. But looking at, you know, Gortat and Gallinari and Tobias Harris and Pat Beverly, I'm going to take the under 20 minutes average those 4 guys plays, or the 3 of them who play. Knox was the only Nick that played over 20. I don't think that's true. I think Mario Hezonja also played 22 off the bench, but it was a shit show. Trae Young gonna jack. Yes, he is. No way Trae Young over Doncic. Trae Young's gonna take more shots, average more assists, score more points, almost certainly. Doncic is a much better basketball player. TLC okay for a cheap play? Yes. Or Kennard or Snell? No, I would go with Timothé Luwawu there from those guys. Glenn Robinson at the 3 or Frank Ntilikina. I would go with Little Dog, GR3. Montrezl Harrell, yeah, I'm fine with that. Schroeder, Levine, Greek, Portis, Noel, Tyus, Dieng with the I in there, not Dang. That's good. Cat on DK for GPP's thoughts. I love that lineup. I think you're going to win everything, Matt Smith. Levert, good in GPPs. Again, obscenely popular. If you told me I had to play 100% or 0%, I'd play 0. But the matchup is good, and everyone's been talking a lot about him. But again, there were games last year where he went out, scored 40, and then Allen Crabbe was out the next day, and everyone's like, he's going to be amazing. And he played 26 minutes and scored 11 fantasy points. So can't get ahead of ourselves. At this point in the season, what we're trying to do is, you know, zig when they zag and keep track of what's going on. Did I mention Montrezl? I didn't. Someone mentioned him at 7:31, and somehow I made it through that analysis. I was focusing on the veterans and starters and the bench guys and rookies, and he obviously fell sort of in the gap there, so I forgot to... Dumb to fade Knox in a GPP. If that was a question, no, I don't think Knox is a must-play. If you're saying it was dumb to fade Knox in a GPP, I disagree with you. We'll see shortly. He's got a rebound and an assist in 2.5 minutes so far. That's pretty good. Luol Deng over Jiang? No. Luol Deng might not play, and if he does play, he's going to play a third of the minutes of Gorgie Jiang. So no, play Jiang. Montrezl. Tobias 7K on day K. Is he worth it? Again, I spoke to this. Both Gallinari and Tobias, if I think they're going to get 25 minutes again, are guys I really, really like. Ooh, Karis LeVert, guys, 3 minutes in, picked up a turnover. He's into the negatives. It's almost like somebody said this could happen just a second ago. It's almost like that. Can you give projective ownership numbers for Harris, Gallo, Gortat, and Patrick Beverley on DK, trying to find out how much I should have? Right, because there's late swap going on here. And by the way, you know, if we got extra, like this is a perfect example of, yeah, I still have a landline. I have, I do radio shows once in a while, and cell phone service is awful, and Skype is frequently awful, and various Zoom and stuff is pretty terrible. So it's already started. The ownership, I presume, will be highest on those 4 guys of probably Harris. I think it'll probably go Harris, Gallo, Pat, Bev, Gortat. Harris probably make double digits. The others will be in the singles. I think you get 5 to 8% on those bottom 3 for Harris. But you're trying to decide how much I should have. Unless I hear different news, I'm really not interested in Pat, Bev, or Gortat at lesser minutes. I don't know. We'll see. Jared Allen, 2 blocks. Yeah, not surprising. LeVert stink. Yeah. There's late swap, Duncan, is what they're talking about. I have a dial-up phone. Yeah, it's for radio. If you ever do radio, it's much better. Thonmaker, again, we discussed. Trey Burke, again, the minutes, guys. The minutes. Beverly or Rose. I mean, like, if they're the same price, I guess that does make Beverly a little bit interesting. He, 3 and D. He's a guy who can... he won the skills competition. So he's certainly a guy who can stack up some stuff. Will you be doing streams with Josh and or Chris during the regular season? Some combination, like I will be on up to lock because it's better for everybody. It's better for you because I'm apparently fairly good at the pivoting. It's better for the other hosts, as many as possible, who are also playing. I think it is most likely me and Josh and maybe Adam and Lofty before that. I know that's still up in the air, but they're talking about it. Pistons news above. Pistons just took the court in OKC. No Blake or Reggie in uniform as yet. Andre Drummond is out there. Yeah, when a coach says I'm going to play everyone who is dressing, things need to go really particularly weird for anyone to be good. Like, duh. If they play 18 guys, 14 minutes a person on average, I don't know what the hell good is necessarily going to come there. Ready for the movie Vice? Yes, I'm ready for the movie Vice. You have a lot of ABC. Should you be scared? No. It's sort of like the Harden thing. There's not quite as much value today, and there's a couple better mid-range players, so, it's possible, like both Knox and LeVert were very fadeable. I'm looking at this one lineup where, all right, Knox has a rebound and an assist in 4 minutes and change. LeVert has a turnover. 5-4 in that game. Should you swap Drummond out or keep him in and get some ish? I need to check more news. Let me load up all my alerts and my tweet deck and a couple other things here and see what we're get all my lists going. We'll hang out for a little bit and get this stuff going. What time does the latter game start? I think it was like 7:30, 7:38. Am I getting that right? Let me no, stop showing me what other people wrote about the preseason. Because here's the problem. There's a few people who write about the preseason. Most of them are fairly good. I obviously try to be better than them, and either I am, in which case I sound like a conceited dick if I say so, or I'm not, in which case that's certainly not something I want to yell. And sometimes the things that I get shown are dreadful, and I don't like to, like, what am I supposed to say? Like, if someone writes shit advice, I don't like dodging questions, and someone's like, should I follow what this guy says? Frequently the answer is no, and I don't feel good about that either. So, okay, so that's that. Okay, so sure, I'll stay on up to 8. Why not? I came late. It's like work. I came a half hour late. I got to stay you know what I'm saying there. It's like work. So let's see what we can find out about some Pistons and stuff, and manage people with their late swap. And we will continue to keep an eye. Kevin Knox with a bucket. Okay, he's got 6 fantasy points in 6 minutes. Feeling pretty good about that if you got him. Did you hear Blake isn't dressed? I believe Blake has not yet been seen. Karis LeVert with a 3-pointer. It's up to 3 fantasy points in 3 minutes. It's not quite as good, but tolerable. Please, Eddie Boy. Okay, I'm going to go see what's being asked of me that I'm missing in the premium chat. So many people. Wiggins or Portis? Portis in cash. Wiggins with the ownership you're going to get him at is reasonable for me. Are you fading Blake with that news? You should have been fading Blake anyway, in my opinion. In any one lineup, you shouldn't have been played in cash or tournaments. They said they're going to take it easy on the veterans and play everyone. Like, I like Rod Beard. I think he's actually a very strong reporter. I've read some of his writing. And the fact that he embraces the DFS community is great. But his opinion that he said limited minutes, I think that means 20 to 25 for the Pistons was just wrong. Because I've watched Dwayne Casey in the preseason for several years running, and I can tell you without a doubt that 20 to 25 is a full load of minutes, not a short load of minutes. So, yeah. 111 Twitter notifications. You guys were all very cool about me coming 15 minutes late to the show. Nobody freaked out at all. I'm sure none of that is in any way abusive or unfriendly. Not a chance. Alright, let's see what we got. New lineup is Schroeder, Brogdon, ABC, Trez, Noel, Portis, Cat. I love that too. I'm so excited. Oh shit, Eddie, I had the wrong dang in. Lou plays for mini and is $400 cheaper, so I had to go from Levine to Vaghi. But yeah, oh, that's really funny. Somebody had the wrong dang in, and I, as an offhanded comment, said make sure you play the one with the I. And I was just fucking around, but the guy actually had the wrong dang in and swapped it after I said it. So, thumbs up, save somebody some money. That's exciting news right there when that happens. Holy shit, you guys are blowing up my Twitter. Okay, moving on to something else. Finding NBA news. Finding. This is the other reason it's hard for me to research while the show is going on, because me looking at a computer screen. Fascinating television. And now Jackson listed is out. That's good. You shouldn't have played him. Griffin not starting and not in warm-up drill. So you shouldn't have played Blake Griffin anyway. But yeah, get all your Blake out of there. But now the question is like, okay, Blake is not even playing. Let's take a couple seconds, and that's going to make me have some interest in Henry Ellenson. All of a sudden becomes a guy I would load into a tournament lineup. So yeah, play Henry Ellenson. Swap in some Henry Ellenson into your life. Let's see if I'm not going to adjust this guy's lineups, but let's look at some pricing a little bit. But yeah, Henry Ellenson, $500 for Hitachi. If you're talking about like the magic wand, they're not that expensive. Just ask my wife, but I don't know what you're asking me there. But anyway, yeah, Henry Ellenson, $4,400. Get in there. That's a pretty exciting number for me. Did you have a strong done take? No, I had a very mild done take. I don't certainly have any problem if somebody wants to play done, but yeah, I wouldn't go crazy with it. Calderon starting, not Ish. Interesting. Not that surprising. They're going to keep the second unit together, and that's actually a very Dwayne Casey thing to do. I got to keep remembering, like, and I think I remember more than most people that he's the guy in Detroit. But yeah, that's if it had been the Raptors, I would have said no, even because they like to keep that second unit together, and that's a Dwayne Casey thing. So they're keeping the second unit together. Calderon will get 20 minutes, but I'd project him for 11 fantasy points. So I don't want Calderon at this point. They will run 3-point guards deep. Certainly play Ellenson over Ish at this point. Ellenson's going to do like a fair amount of the heavy lifting for this team at this point. They're going to start. I haven't heard the rest of the starters, but I'll guess Calderon, Bullock, either Stan or Glenn at the 3, Henry Ellenson and Drummond. Ellenson or Noel. Oh, God. At this point, I would probably prop it over to Ellenson. Henry or Harrell. Probably Henry for me at this point. Like, he's should be pretty big here. Ferguson and GPP is fine. Schroeder, Grant, or Middleton, Ellenson. I think you have to play Dennis Schroeder, so I'm going to take Schroeder, Grant. And I don't mind either of those guys. Levert and Kevin Knox doing perfectly equitable. Levert up to 9 fantasy points, by the way, in what I presume is about 9 minutes. That's pretty exciting. Levert and Russell with 5 points each. Just burning through beat, repair, Porter, Shizzle. Bucks confirmed starting lineup. Bledson, Brogdon is starting at the 2, which is something I mentioned. Hopefully people played Broggy pants. You know, I've noticed something that's really weird for me. And I'm sure this is cognitive dissonance of some level. But whenever I'm woefully unprepared and just do it off the seat of my pants, everyone wins $1 million. So if everyone randomly cashes tonight, it's going to be funny because I need to not prepare so much. This happened several times during the regular season last year. In the postseason and the preseason, I'd be like, shit guys, sorry, work ran wrong. I only had 2 hours to prep for the show instead of 5, so I half-assed everything and everyone demolished. I make your day, Mr. Fear. Thanks, I do what I can. I think you just meant the Hitachi comment, but good times. Wishing that the preseason had only 2 or 3 games. Interesting. Look at that, Keith Langelis, another guy who knows his shizzle. Did I get it right? I got it right. It is Calderon, Bullock, Stan, Henry, and Drummond. So, yeah, Henry is the guy I like the most there. And you know who's not out of play? Stan. Happened rare in the end of last year where they were just sort of going weird in the last day of Stan Van Gundy's tenure there. Stanley Johnson had some big games. I would not. I would find some room for Stan Johnson if I could conveniently find it. Especially if you don't have Ellenson. So if that positionally distributes better for you, I would be pretty interested in that. Henry Ellenson, Jeremy Grant, or Bobby Portis. Those guys are the same. They can't all be the same price. Like Portis. Diallo or TLC. At this point, I probably would play Stan Johnson over Diallo or TLC. You're going to get him at 3% owned. And he can put up like 35 in this situation. It's really aggravating, and I hate playing Stanley Johnson, but that's the sort of the sexy move here, especially since we've now seen that he's starting and not GR3. Middleton is great. He's expensive, but can absolutely demolish in this environment. I would play Diallo if I was forced to play a 4K player. I assume. I don't think anyone else has become available with all the Piston news. Stan Johnson's 5,200, so at least he's not super cheap. GR3's 4,200. Any guys you like around above Grant? I'm not sure what you mean. Grant, Harry, or Stanley? I would play Stanley at this point. Actually, I'm actually going to change it. Yeah, I would play Henry. I'd play Henry. I mean, he's going to try to play 17 guys. That's going to be dicey. 100% L and Schroeder. I don't know who L means. L. E-L-L-E. 100% Schroeder doesn't bother me. But little Stanley, little Henry, those are the guys who have the greatest chance to do some damage here. Middleton, Ellenson, or Portis Harrell. I'm fine with either of those. I like all 4 of those guys in their capacity. Probably Portis Harrell by a hair as far as just production. You played Kennard as your SG2 on FanDuel. Are you screwed? No. There is a real chance this happens. You actually are... I might prefer him not starting and them giving Bullock the start. It would not be strange for me to see the starters get 18 minutes and that second unit to get 20. But it's not a significant difference that Kennard didn't start. So no, I wouldn't be super concerned there at all. Who's your sleeper team for the 2018-2019 season? I think the Hornets come in the 8th seed in the playoffs. I think that's the one I'm furthest over the field on. Good question. Ellenson a better punt than Diallo? Yes, to me at this point, probably. But fairly close. Again, they're going to try to play a number of dudes. Now, the number of dudes they're going to play has come down a little bit because Detroit is now sitting... Like, there's only 16 there now, I think. So, but still there. Stanley Johnson or Gilgeous Alexander on DK. How great. Gilgeous is... I would probably still play Gilgeous. Stanley, I worry... little bit still about the minutes. I still think he's around 20 minutes, and I think Gilgis is probably at 25. So I'm going to stick with Gilgis there. But close. What do we got? Oh, 8 o'clock. You know what that means? We can get some more ownership. This is where it's going to get interesting, because now we'll have 3 of the 4 games to take a peek at. Can we take a look at this again? Let's see what we got. Karis LeVert doing the nasty, by the way. Drummond or Middleton, utility, more raw points. Drummond's starting with a hell of a lot of kids at this point. I will stick with Drummond, but they'd be in the same ballpark for me. Just the minutes uncertainty with Drummond is a big kick in the pants. But again, like, Blake isn't even out there, and they have only, you know, so many bigs. So it's interesting. But I'll stick with Drummond. Henry Ellenson 8% in the FanDuel Express. Oh, yeah, that's the kind of shit that can make you some money if you're paying attention. So I'm very excited to hear that. For some reason, it's giving me... Yeah, you are really fucking aggravating me. Sorry, very annoyed at the projections right now. Jared Allen, very good too. D'Angelo Russell. All 3 of those nets, the 3 nets we really liked, all have like 11 fantasy points. Knox at 6 at the moment. Giannis only 13%. Okay. Can I get ownership with? All right, Dennis Schroeder 62%. Yeah. Don't know how much I moved that line, but Jabari Parker in at 52, Zach LaVine at 41. I would invert those numbers. Portis 36. Yeah. Dunn 26. Interesting. A little higher than I would like, but certainly not like wretched or anything. Wendell 19. I like Wendell at 19. Middleton at 19. I like that. Drummond at 17. I like that. Giannis at 16. I'm ecstatic with. Like, Giannis could play 23 minutes and score 48 fantasy points, and that's your night. And it's not, in his particular matchup, that freakishly unlikely. But he's really not going to hurt you, and especially with the extra value opening up with the Pistons and stuff, I would have upped my exposure there a little bit. Enes Kanter's still at 15%, and I'm still chuckling. Blake Griffin, 12%. Congratulations. You played yourself. Jeremy Grant, 10. Ebled, 9. Hizonian, 9. We've been through, obviously, some of these already. Blakeney, 8. Noel, 5.68. That's all us. That's of that 5.68%, 5.8% of it is people watching this show. Paul George, 4.32%. Thanks. So, yeah. And this, you know, again, brings me up. Brogdon at 3.74%, who's going to play plenty at the 1 and the 2. That's exciting. Ellenson on the main slate, 3.18%. So 3% of people understood the real power of late swap and did the dirty there. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, I expect tonight to be our best night at this point. There is a lot of dead money. And again, it's that weird thing. So if it goes really well tonight, I'm warning you all, I'm going to do everything half-assed backwards tomorrow, rather. Reggie, which Reggie? You know one thing that's kind of weird? There are 3 Reggies in the NBA. They're all on the Pistons. I don't even know what to say after that. At least I think they're all on the Pistons. Or have the rights to the Pistons. But Reggie Bullock, Reggie Hearn, and Reggie Jackson are all on the Pistons. What the hell's that about? Going to be much more dead money after these Clipper starters play 10 minutes. Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I give myself a solid B for most of the days. And most people are doing F work and putting in some real shit line. So, like, you know, there was the random Pistons day screwing and the, you know, like, there's just been a fair bit of randomness, and more people have been paid off by playing badly than are getting screwed by it. So, you know, I think today's going to be a good day. We will see. Yeah, we'll see. Like, that's what I got. So I'm going to take a break because my family's wondering why I'm still on the air at 8:05. Teague or Wiggins for the late game in a GPP? I would stick with Teague. The damn Suns specifically. Oh, they're going to play. Like, it's going to crack me up. They're playing whatever, Perth, Melbourne, New South Wales, Federated States of Micronesia, or whatever the hell tonight. And all the starters will play 15 minutes because Reggie, underrated Archie character. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I was always, as an introvert, a bit of a Jughead guy myself, and I'm a Betty guy, clearly. Like, if you're a Veronica guy, I think that might mean you're a sociopath. But anyhow, good question. Anyhow, we'll try to do a Periscope soon and go on the road or do something else. I have some weird personal stuff going on in my life right now. Nothing bad. Everything is fine with me. Thank you if you are at all concerned toward that end. No, everything is fine. But yeah, some weird stuff going on. So we will get into that. But again, I need 11 hours a day for my day job and 7 hours a day for this. Literally, it's not 7, but like if I could do everything I wanted to, I would need 6, and I'm only able to like carve out 4 or 5. And it's tough, and like I just want to do it really, really well because A, I feel a responsibility to 500,000 people at this point who are paying attention, and 2, it only lasts like 14 days. So hit the damn thing and hit it hard. So let's crush it tonight. I'm expecting one of you all to win all the money. I'm looking forward to the tweets where you won it all. Do it. Would you shift all Gallinari to Harrell? Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm not. I would rather play Harrell than Gallinari. There's a there's a 30% chance Gallinari rests or something. Like, I would put the rest chances at like 30% Gallo, 45% Avery Bradley, 20% Tobias Harris. Maybe not quite that much on those. They bring those down to like 40, 25, 15 or 20 on Pat Beverly, 15 or 20 on Gortat. So there's a decent chance that Gallo rests. And, you know, if Gortat is out or Tobias Harris is out, then you pick up a lot of extra nice time for Harrell probably. So it's certainly a dynamic situation. All right, I'm bouncing out of here. Harris or Gallo, I would play Harris because I think it's less likely he rests. I think he's a slightly better player. If I had to play one of those two, again, I'd be waiting. I assume there's like it's just a showdown slate at this point. Yeah, like I don't know. Maybe I'll jump on Periscope at 10:15.